All right, we live.
We're live. All right. Hey, what's up to the chat? What's up to obviously Brandon Lee and Big John? We're gonna go ahead and do something a little bit different right now. It's we're gonna trial run here with us, and it's gonna be mostly focused on again. We're involving the chat here, and again, this is the radar. Again, we're all gonna discuss the hottest debates, and we're also gonna do just random topics that we think is important relative to not just the NBA but the sports world in general. Obviously, we have some great minds here, not just on the panel but in the chat. But again, this is our flagship episode, and we're going to go ahead and get things started here. Now, before now, obviously, we're going to have ideas and fine tune this thing, but I want to emphasize this is mainly for we want to make sure that the chat, you guys, the viewers, are heavily involved a little bit more than what we already do on Friday nights or Sunday nights, where it's in but a little bit more, where you guys have a little bit more input, a little bit more creative control on, just maybe what we talk about, give you guys assignments here. And towards that end, we're going to lead off each show with a trivia that each of us pick each day. I'm going first, just since, like I said, I thought of it just off the cuff, and then obviously we'll take turns each one once we think of it. And whoever gets that trivia by the end of the show, if someone does, obviously we're gonna brainstorm here and think of maybe something they can do or some sort of reward they can have uh, beginning of next week. We'll be announcing that, so should be fun. So before we start off with anything here, obviously Brandon, John, how you guys doing?
What's good? What's good?
Yeah, everything good.
Awesome. So here's the question for the just to start off. So you guys have plenty of time to mull it over, think about it, and get back to us with the answer. Hopefully at the end of the show. If not, whatever. It's just all good fun. Okay. So from the top five players, as far as field goal percentage, just not true shooting, not effective, just regular straight up field goal percentage. Okay. Of the top five players who have the highest field goal percentage while scoring at least 30 points per game. Okay. Remember all that. Top field goal percentage, top five players scoring the at least 30 points per game. Who was the only non-center, non-power forward to make that list? Okay. So if anyone finds that, also what year did he do it? So if anyone's good enough to actually get that question, get that answer, then let us know by the end of the show, and it'll be good to go. But to start off with, each we're gonna have these segments, okay? Uh, and again, this is just what we talked amongst ourselves. And so at the beginning of this show, each of these shows, we're gonna be John, Brandon, and I are gonna quickly debate a topic, okay, that we decide beforehand, and we're going to present our arguments to you, the chat. And also at the end of the show, you're going to be able to vote there in the chat line to see who, according to you guys, did the best job presenting their case. Okay, you guys can have different opinions, but it's literally just between the three options that each of us pick and who you thought did the best. Okay, this week's show or this week's debate topic is, in our opinion, who had maybe the best or the most underrated individual season in NBA history. Okay, so that's what we're going to be discussing first part of this channel, and I'm going to go last because that's how I'm going to roll this time. But I guess we can round robin it. But let's see John pointing. Let's see what he's got for us
Yeah, I want to
first.
go
John, you
first
got
this
first?
week.
All right, go ahead, John.
Okay.
Yeah, go first. I want to go first mainly because this player that I want to talk about, it was the year before was a big year for me personally. I was coming out of eighth grade. I was recruited out of eighth grade by like three or four high schools, and what was special about that is that my eighth grade year was that school's first year having a basketball team. And normally you don't get no scouts, nobody looking. My coach did get a few schools out to check out, and every school that checked me out wanted me to come to their school. So it was huge for me. And this player that I really patterned my game out of, that year was his rookie year, my eighth grade year. So it was just like I would watch his games and I would just pattern everything he did. It was just down to the point and everything. And That player is Penny Hardaway. That I mean, his game meant so much to me because it wasn't like I had to do a lot of things different than what he did. I can really score and I can really pass the ball. I like to be in the post. I could rebound. I could do a lot of things with the ball. I could handle the ball. And at the time, I was 6'5", 11", and I was considered a tall point guard. And at the time, I mean, point guards coming out of 8th grade wasn't that tall. So it was just strange for a lot of people that hey, I was a point guard for my 8th grade team. I was I was the second tallest person on my team, but I handled the ball greatly. So when we started this, of course, I wanted to go straight to Penny Hardaway. He was something for me that year, and I want to talk about his second season in the NBA. So my main point is talking about his second season and some things you want to know about Penny Hardaway. He was 6'7" point guard. He went to college. He went to Memphis. He was drafted third by Golden State. He was traded that day for Chris Webber to Orlando. So a lot of people don't know that he was originally drafted by Golden State and traded to Orlando. And I mean, I really want to focus on the 1995 season. So that season, he averaged 20.9 points, 1.7 steals, 7.2 assists, 4.4 rebounds. He shot 77% from the free throw line. And what a lot of people don't know, that he came in 10th place in his second season in MVP vote. And it was a big jump from his rookie year because his rookie year, he averaged 16 points, 2 steals, 6 assists, 5.4 rebounds, shot 74% from the free throw line, 46% from the field. And why his second season was so major to me, he was first team All NBA. For a second year guy, first team. A lot of people don't recognize the NBA those years. For a second year guy to be first team All NBA, hey, that's amazing. That was different, and he was. Hey, everybody saw the stardom coming to him, and it was just amazing for him. And I loved every minute of it. And I just want people to recognize skills and what he was as a player. And I want to break some other things down about that second season. So overall that year, his playoff, I gave you his regular season number. His overall playoff numbers was 19.6 points per game, 1.9 steals, 7.7 assists, 3.8 rebounds. He shot 76% from the free throw line and 47% field goals. Now I'm breaking this down a little further than that because I want to talk about each series that playoff year. So first round in the playoffs, they played the Boston Celtics. Orlando won that series 3-1. Penny Hardaway personally, 15.5 points per game, 4.0 rebounds, 8.5 assists, 1.8 steals, a block a game, and he played 39.5 minutes per game that series. It really showed that he was a player for the future to come in the NBA. So the second round was against those Chicago Bulls. Remember, everybody, Jordan had just came back and they was playing the Bulls, and I don't care what Orlando said, they feared the Chicago Bulls that year. So he went up in points per game from the first round from 15.5 points to 18.5 points. Orlando won that series 4-2, and I said 18.5 points, 3.7 rebounds, 7.5 assists, 1.8 steals, zero point 0.7 blocks, and he played 41 minutes per game that series. And that was a great series. It was a coming out party. If you didn't know who Penny Hardaway was before then, you definitely knew who he was. All eyes was on him that year because you played against the Bulls. Michael Jordan was back. Everybody watched that series. Most basketball fans around that year, who was out there around that season, knew who Penny Hardaway was that year after that series. So the next series is the conference finals. And he went up again. They won that series 4-3. He averaged 19.6 points per game, 3.1 rebounds, 7.3 assists, 2.6 steals, and point 0.6 blocks, and he played 39 minutes a game per game that series. And again, they won that series 4-3. Now he went up again. They played the Houston Rockets in the finals, and I'm sorry, I was sad that year. They got swept by Houston. But that series, he went from 19.6 points per game from the conference finals to 25.5 points per game that series. To 4.8 rebounds, 8.8 assists, 1 steal, 0.8 blocks, and he played 43 minutes per game that series. Penny Hardaway has showed the NBA that he was going to be a future player of the league. The league had made, you could start seeing what the league was doing, making him one of the faces of the league. And if you remember the baby Penny, the little Penny commercials, and everybody was focused on Penny Hardaway to be the next best players in the league. And something a lot of people don't know, that year he sold more gym shoes than Michael Jordan that year. That year he had sold. It hadn't happened yet. Nobody had did it. His stardom was started. Penny Hardaway was going to become one of the next best players in the league, and I really enjoyed watching Penny Hardaway that year. He just built it up from there. And if it weren't for injuries, we'd still be talking about him today. But that second year of that season, from his rookie year, I think was one of the best seasons I personally had ever saw a player. And I was a big fan of his that year, and I really enjoyed watching Penny Hardaway that year.
It's your favorite player, right, Brandon?
Yeah, that's me and John's favorite player.
Yeah, that's my favorite player as well. So you see him right
me and
behind
John's
me,
favorite
right
player.
there.
I think like Penny's right up there with like Grant Hill and underrated 90s guys, 100%.
Yeah, Grant. I mean,
I
those were my
don't, I
favorite
don't
players.
think they're
Like
underrated.
what
They're
ifs,
just
big what ifs, right?
Yes,
what
yes.
ifs. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Good. I mean,
All
that's a
right,
great
so
take, John. Great take. I didn't even know that about the shoes.
yeah. Penny was good. Penny was good.
He,
I
he
would
made it.
say
He made a change in Orlando because the year before he was drafted, Orlando was 41-41. His rookie year, they was 50-32. That was his rookie year. That next year was the franchise best again. I think they was 52-30. It was the best at that franchise history. That time, it was the best at the time. Someone has broken since then, but it was the best they had ever done for a young team in the NBA. Because I think Orlando was it 90 or 90? Was it 90 or 91? They started in the NBA, so they was a young team in the NBA. Period. So for them to start off like that, it was different from the NBA.
Amazing.
Yeah, what they won like 60 games in '95.
Well, into the finals,
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
I think they won
yeah,
60 something games.
60.
Yeah.
Yeah, they won 60
All
some
right.
games that next year.
All right. So
Yeah,
I
so
guess what we're doing, we're having a debate who makes the best debate. I think that was the thing. So John started off with Penny Hardaway as the greatest season that he's seen. For me, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into things, just like I always do with all the numbers. So when I look at who had the greatest season ever, so what I like to do is I like to encompass everything: offense, defense, analytics. I like to encompass everything, and one of the things is in the past we didn't have all of the stats. Like we just didn't have all of the analytic stats. For instance, when Kareem won, I'm starting with Kareem because that's when they started having some of the things that we needed. But Kareem's second season, when he won the title, he was the MVP, all defensive second team. Like he led, I believe, the league in scoring. He led his team in points and rebounds. Led the league in PER. That wasn't the thing, but they went back and saw what his PER was. So up until that time, I think it was 1971, 72, I would say Kareem at that moment probably had the greatest season if you include those things because when Wilt won with his title, I believe Kareem had a better season when Wilt won his title. um then what people consider the greatest season is ever is the 1988 Michael Jordan season because he won MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, led the league in scoring. I don't think that was the greatest season because he underperformed in the playoffs. He flared out in the second round, lost 3 straight games. Like I said, 24 points per game on 45% shooting, 4 turnovers, lost 3 straight games. I don't think that's a top 10 season period. Like you have to finish the deal. That was not a great season. I don't understand why people bring it up. It makes no sense to me. But when I talk about the greatest season of all time, we have to start with Michael Jordan 1991 season. So when I first was diving into the numbers, I thought the 92 season was the best season Jordan ever had. But when you look at the numbers, it's 91. He was the MVP, all defensive first team, NBA first team, finals MVP, led the league in scoring, even though he did the same thing in 92, 96, and 98. But when you look at how he did it, it was superior than those other seasons. He led the league in PER and value over replacement, led the league in win shares per 48. It was in the 300s, which is crazy to be in the 300s. His true shooting was high, the highest of his career as well, just like the PER and the win share per 48 of all the times he won. That was the highest. So that separates Michael Jordan from all of his titles runs that year. Plus, he was dominant on both sides of the floor. And that's why people say who had the highest peak is Michael Jordan. They say Michael Jordan peak was high because of that. And when we look at Hakeem, that's the season that he won Defensive Player of the Year, MVP. He had all the things that Jordan did. He was dominant. Like that's the season that you compare to that 91 season. He led his team in more things like points, rebound, defensive rebounds, blocks, steals. He was superior. He was dominant. The reason I would put Michael Jordan 91 season ahead of him because Michael Jordan was clearly the best player in the league. He was led the league in PER, value of replacement, a lot of analytics, box plus and minus. Like Michael Jordan was dominant throughout the league. Up to that time, Kareem had the second best. Yes, we look at Jokic when he won his title. You look at Giannis when he won his title. They were not the MVP of the league. Um, Jokic has never been all defensive first team. I don't think he ever been all defensive. So that's where Michael Jordan separated himself from those guys that he was dominant on both sides of the floor, even though Giannis was. But that 91 season, Michael Jordan was great. We look at Steph, KD. They were never all defensive team. They never won MVP when they won a title. So Michael Jordan still, stands ahead. Then you got Duncan in 2003. Duncan had a dominant season. MVP, all NBA first team, defensive team, led his team in a lot of stats. But just like Hakeem, he was not as dominant over everybody like Michael Jordan was. Duncan led his team in points, blocks, rebounds, everything. Like dominant, just like Hakeem. But Hakeem was Defensive Player of the Year, so I would give Hakeem that nod with Duncan right under it. So, but the only player who could really go up against that 91 is LeBron. 2012 and 2013. Those are only seasons where he was NBA MVP, all defense first team, should have been defensive player of the year, but we all know why he wasn't. They didn't want to have LeBron with the greatest season of all time. So LeBron James, 2013, 2012. But when we look at 2012, we look at what he did, how he led his team. In 2012, he led his team in points, rebounds, assists. He was did he lead it in steals? I think Wade may have led in steals, but overall, the team stats, LeBron led more than Jordan. Jordan shot a higher percentage. LeBron was 53, Michael Jordan 54. True shooting was the same percentage. LeBron was a better all-around player. Michael Jordan was, you give a nod to him in scoring as a slightly offensive player, better offensive player. Defensively, I still get a slight edge to LeBron in 2002 over Jordan in 91. But me personally, I give LeBron that nod, but most people will say Michael Jordan because he led the league in scoring. So those are the two like dominant seasons that we ever seen. But then we move into 2013. So this is when LeBron was even more dominant than he was in 2012. He led the team to 66 wins. He had that 27 game winning streak. he led his team with more stats, more team stats, points, assists, rebounds, defensive rebounds, total rebounds, double doubles, triple doubles. He was second in team in blocks. Led his team in defensive box plus or minus, defensive win shares, defensive rating. Like LeBron James in 2013 was encompassed what an all-around great player was. And not only that, when he was the votes for the all defensive team, like for both years, 2012, 2013, the coaches thought he was the best defensive player on the floor. Like we said, he won MVP, Finals MVP, All Defensive, First Team, NBA First Team. His PER, value replacement, his win shares per 48 was a tad bit higher than Jordan that year. Both of them was over 300. Win shares, like what LeBron did in 2013, has not been replicated ever. Even superior than Michael Jordan in 2000. I mean, in 1991, he even shot 57% from the field, 40% from the 3-point line, 64% true shooting percentage, which is both all three of them higher than Michael Jordan was in 91. And he was literally the best offensive and defensive player in the league. Like he was definitely the best offensive defensive player in the league that year alone. His turnover to assist ratio was 2-1. Shooting efficiency was better than Jordan. So to me, 2013 encompassed the greatest player we have ever seen and the greatest season we have ever seen. And if you take those 2 years, 2012 and 2013, that's probably the greatest peak player we have ever seen in basketball history. All right, there you go. There you go, Travis.
Hey, I mean that's hard to argue. I mean, I love the fact that I've always said 91 Mike is my favorite version of him because obviously I thought he was a little bit more polished there on both ends. But yeah, I know that 2013 Braun was. I don't think you can argue that he wasn't one of the better two-way seasons we've ever seen. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean,
it was those seasons where you could see it, he separated from the first best player to second best player. Is a gap.
yeah.
Is a gap. I mean, with Jordan and LeBron those years, but LeBron this year separated himself from everyone. And what made it even more dominant is that Kobe was still in the league as well at the time, and he separated himself. So I mean,
Yeah.
it was different. It was definitely different.
Hey, Kobe
Yeah,
had a great season that year too. That was year
Yeah, he did.
17
That's why
Kobe.
I brought him up.
yeah, that was one of Kobe's best years. That was like his last best year
I
was
would have given
2013.
Kobe MVP that year just because half his team was injured. They still made the playoffs. But I mean, obviously he couldn't compare statistically with LeBron and the sheer impact. LeBron was crazy that year. That was
Yeah,
I mean I still think Duncan was robbed of DPOY that year. I've said why before, but from a two-way perspective, no.
2013.
2013, yeah. I don't think anybody was better though than LeBron that year at all. I don't think it was even close from a two-way
Was
perspective.
was was Duncan first team all defense
I
that year?
believe he was, but also
Was
he there was 11 defensive categories in the NBA. He was top 5 in 8 of them. No one's ever done that. And like
I'm, I mean, they actually voted somebody defensive player of the year who wasn't even all
yeah,
defense. So that was a weird year.
that was because he led in DPBM, but like his team was stacked defensively. Marc Gasol, like
Yeah,
he had an amazing defensive team. He had like Conley, Mike or Tony Allen,
Tony Allen.
some like Rattle. That team was amazing defensively. He just gets the credit for being like what the center.
yeah,
So
the anchor, and that's why the coaches didn't vote him on the all defensive team.
yeah, well, just to piggyback off you, and I have 94 David Robinson as maybe like, and this is like what we're talking about. Not even if we don't think they're the best season ever, it's the most underrated. I think this could be. There's 94 Robinson was so. There's only been 7 times a player has led the league in winches for 48 PER, box plus minus, and VORP, and not won the MVP. Okay, Mike had that happen to him 4 times in 80, 87, 89, 90, 93. Braun had it robbed in 2011. Joker last year, or 2023, and probably this
23.
year,
Yeah,
probably this year as well, if they give the Shea. Also, D Rob in 94. So right now, so basically, also his defensive box plus minus that year. If you look at the top DBPMs of all time, David Robinson, this one will be top 10 if you filter for at least 800 games played for those players. So it's again just insanely like where he was doing the offense. He led the league in scoring. He led in every uh, major analytic. His team he didn't even get DPOY. He led his team to top 3 in scoring or top 3 defensively with almost no help. And Hakeem uh, gave him offensive or DPOY and MVP. I think the MVP sure, but he beat Hakeem in scoring, steals, and assists, and he had better offense or he had way better metrics than Hakeem as well. So that year he was on. So I mean, we look at his overall box score, and it was according to this like the level of like his PER combined with his box plus minus was to the point where it ranks him. He was like basically top 10 in every single one of those critics as far as dominant or how high they were in one particular season. And so you look at that, the only seasons that were higher than him are ranked higher as far as if you look at those metrics combined with he led the league in scoring and led his team to a top 5 defense was 2013 LeBron, uh, as far as analytically, 88 Mike, and then you had like 2000 Shaq. But Robinson was doing this, without a Kobe Bryant, things like that. But I think that D-Rob was probably the most underrated player of the 90s and maybe of all time behind maybe John Stockton. And so, I mean, just what he did from an offensive and defensive, like we talk about the best two-way season in history. This is the top 5 for me. As if you're talking about just players who, we always talk about this, players who not only, there's no one to take the load off them offense or defensively or offensively. So that's not even a question. But then they're also the best player defensively on their team, and like that's not even close. Like who's had that type of season besides like Hakeem? Uh, I mean, who who else would be like the player who's like defensively and offensively dominant? That there's no question. Maybe like Kobe in '06.
LeBron.
Ron, yeah, like
Jordan. There's only like 5
I
players you
wouldn't even
probably
say
named.
Jordan because Scotty
yeah,
was
Jordan.
the best
Yeah,
defense.
I mean, I would say Scotty was the best defender. Like maybe later on too, like '88 Mike for sure. But I mean, this is like rarefied air when we're talking about these seasons and these players. And I think the thing with Robinson is like his entire '90s stretch was, I think, some of the most underrated 8 years of basketball we've ever seen from an impactful a defensive impact perspective. Like his rookie year, they go from 19th before or like 20th defensive rating to 5th, just adding him to the roster, and then they're like top 5 all throughout, and he gets injured in '96 and then they go down to like
With
28th.
the first pick in the draft.
Yeah, first pick in the draft, and then he comes back and they're top 10 again. And then you obviously got Duncan, but it's like this man was so impactful on both ends. I think he gets lost in the sauce sometimes because we talk about other players who were amazing during the '90s. Obviously, Mike, Shaq, Hakeem, all these guys, but uh, D Rob, I think that particular season was a culmination of everything you want in a basketball player, and like the impact shows that. But I mean, there's no super correct answer. That's why we're debating, and that's why it's up to you guys in the chat. We're gonna put a little vote down there to see what you guys think at the end of the show. And remember, this is going to be around the halfway point, so remember, vote on that. And also, I'm going to refresh the question, the trivia that we answered, just in case that not everyone was here. So whoever gets this trivia, again, starting next week, okay, we're going to say the name, and then you guys get to pick generally the topic that John, Brandon, and I can debate on each week, okay, going forward. So if somebody gets a trivia right. So again, the question was, uh, out of the top 5 most efficient or seasons of all time, just as regular field goal percentage, not true shooting or anything else, regular field goal percentage, and that player scored at least 30 points per game. This was the only non-center, non-power forward to do it, and he's in the top 5. Okay, so anyone who gets that, but oh, good.
Something you forgot to say about David Robinson is because he was one of the most athletic centers ever. And to me, before Dwight, you could argue him and Wilt, but before Dwight, I didn't know at the time I didn't know much about Wilt, but I considered him the most athletic center ever at the time. And then Dwight was the only person who kind of moved him over. But
Yep.
once you learn more about Wilt, you learn how athletic as a center he was. But David Robinson is considered one of the most athletic centers. And if you know basketball, you know what David Robinson used to do great. He used to beat everybody down middle of the court, and
Yep.
you could throw that pass right to him because he was going to beat everybody down court and get an easy score. So, hey, David Robinson, he had one of the most underrated careers ever. And hey, I mean, I believe the NBA spends so much time promoting certain other players that you didn't promote one of your greats that was playing. He was right there. I mean, maybe it was because he was in San Antonio and they didn't know how to promote San Antonio at the time. But
Yeah.
he was considered one of the greats, and David Robinson is a great player, and he's a great in that 10-year span. He was one of the great players in the league at the time.
No, 100%. And I think that he's right up there with, like you said, Dwight Howard and Ben Wallace maybe too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
like these guys are hyper athletic. He was always like super ripped. Everyone would always talk about
yes,
that. Like
yes, yes,
just
yes,
the specimen. And yeah, he was fast. Even when he was playing with Timmy, like in their
yes,
ring years, like he was still super effective. But yeah, he was freakish, man. Like he could cover so much ground. He could cover. He was good on the perimeter. He was amazing.
yeah.
So, but yeah. So again, great arguments for everyone. You guys need to vote on that when at the end here. And so what we talked about this week here, and to kind of get into the second half is obviously some current events. We decided this time it's probably going to be the MVP race and maybe some intriguing matchups that we were looking at that are kind of developing right now with only 15 games left in the season, right? So like it's starting to take shape of like what kind of matches we're going to see. Like John, what were you maybe like more excited to see? Like if let's say if like the seedings and standings say relatively similar to what they are now, was there some cool matchups we can look forward to?
It's some later matchups that I hope to get to see. Like Cleveland, Boston. I would prefer Cleveland, Milwaukee. It's just something intriguing there that I want to see, something new, something different. I think Boston gonna shoot themselves out of a couple of games because they shoot 50. I think they shooting 48 threes per game. But the other day, I think they shot 65 threes in the game. They shot 65 threes and 22s. Crazy, I don't get it, but I think in the Eastern Conference Finals, it's not gonna happen. Eastern Conference Finals, I don't think, but I will. I want to see Milwaukee, Cleveland. I think that would be a really good series. I think Mobley is one of the most underrated players in the league, and I always tell people Mobley, Cleveland gonna go as he go. If he's the difference maker in any series, they're gonna win that series. I don't. He has no matchup. He literally has no matchup. He's the younger Anthony Davis. That's when I watch him play. I think I look at a younger Anthony Davis, maybe a little less athletic, but I think of him as a younger Anthony Davis right now. So I pay attention to Cleveland and any matchup outside that first round series I want to see. The West is so clogged up right now that I mean the Lakers just dropped from second to fifth. So I have no idea what's going to happen in the West and what series is going to happen. I mean, but the East is you kind of know what's going to happen. I don't expect that much out of New York, even though they solid. I like their team. I think one of the players just told the coach, "You running us? We tired now. Just guess what's going to happen when the playoffs start." I mean, just
Yeah.
I do. I think Cleveland and Milwaukee got matchup problems with certain teams, and I think they can make. I think that could be a really good 7-game series.
Yeah, Cleveland's on fire right now too. Like they're closing out. They
They
won like
16 straight right now.
yeah, it's insane. Like and what happened to them? Like they just matured. I mean, obviously it's coaching to a degree, but everyone just got better. Like they know their schemes. Like they
They
bought
were good
into.
last year, though. Yeah,
They
they
were
were
they were
good
fine
last
last
year.
year,
They
but not
just,
like
yeah,
72 wins. Good.
I think
yeah, they
we can walk
just.
into games
I
and say
mean,
we gonna win. I mean,
they
hey,
Yeah.
like
serious,
needed
we're
a
gonna
year
win.
just to see how great they were, They just took off from there. Just like when Golden State, when they won the title, the second year they just took off.
Yeah.
Won
Yeah,
what
and I mean what
73
the
games.
team's like
So
shooting like 50, 40, what, like 85? Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. Like
Yes.
I mean, it's hard to guard them. I mean, they blow out the Lakers every time they play them. Like it's not even
yeah.
uh
Well, Lakers
it's
are
not even
done,
close.
so it's
Yeah,
fine.
it's not even close when the Cavs play the Lakers. But I guess what I'm looking forward to, I'm hoping that to see Denver and OKC play. I think that'll be a good playoff matchup. Probably Lakers probably play both of them, so who knows if we get to see that. But I think Denver and OKC will be probably one of the best matchups if we get to see those two play.
There may be
Plus,
a second round matchup depending on where
OKC is playing out of
Denver
their
fall.
mind, so
Yeah.
they're
Yes.
just like Cleveland. Like it's hard to see them losing to anybody. It's
Yeah.
hard to see them lose to anybody. You have to lose. They have to be a team that's playing great. Boston, I think this Cleveland team this year would have probably beat the Boston team last year. I don't think Boston played great in the playoffs.
They
But
didn't play
who
anyone
knows?
great either.
That
Like
too.
everyone was injured, yeah.
That too. So yeah, I think the Cavs right now, as we stand today, them and OKC is probably playing the best basketball at the moment. I know that like Lakers were playing great, but we see how they are. Like the concerns I still had prior to when Luke out on the team is Jackson Hayes staying healthy. He seems like he's always hurt, like he's hurt again. LeBron just he got his groin thing, so that shouldn't be too bad. And Luca, I don't know if this is going to be the year for the Lakers because of Luka's not in basketball shape. Like I said, I think next year the Lakers are going to be much better once they have a season under them, and I don't know if Luka could take them far this year. LeBron's going to do all he can, but he's going to need Luka to step up, and he's been hurting them defensively a lot. He's been hurting them defensively a lot, so. I want to see the Lakers win, but OKC is playing too damn good this year to see them losing.
Yeah, no, that's facts. I mean it's really the Lakers were on a tear, like before obviously they had some injuries here. Like they were playing great defense. They're often I think that they're gonna be a tough out. Like let's say if they stay I don't think they'll stay in the 15. I think they'll end up like probably fourth or something. So I mean we'll probably play like who like the
Houston
Houston, yeah.
or Golden
So I
State.
mean, yeah, Golden State. So I mean, I think Lakers could beat either one of them, especially Braun was held. Although, like I said, Golden State is playing amazing right now. Like, what are they like 8-2, like or 9-1,
Hey,
like
they
the last 10
won.
games?
They like 13-1 or
Yeah,
14-1
they
with
really found their
Butler.
identity. I think Butler trade was underrated. If anything, I didn't believe in it when I first saw it. I didn't think he was going to make that big of a difference. But I think like when you can play better perimeter defense in this league, it's more important now than having just like maybe a better rim protector or something like that. And so I think that it starts from there, and like Butler has energized them. But I think that I would like you guys said, I would love to see Denver OKC because I still think Denver's being slept on a little bit. But they definitely like watching them play against undermanned Lakers team last night. Uh, they 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 should have lost that game. They should have lost that game, and like their defense just leaves a lot to be desired. Like I think teams did a great job of exploiting like when Jokic comes out to double team on like needlessly. Like he doesn't like he on pick and roll things like that or just a perimeter or whatever. They do a great job of baiting him out here. Like they'll cut things of that nature. They need to clean that up if they want to go far. And then they just need to get way more consistent games out of like Porter Jr. Especially Murray. He needs to be a little bit more efficient. He's stepping up right now though. But their bench, we'll see how that looks. But I OKC just continues to impress. I don't see any letdown as long as they're healthy. They can shoot the lights out. Like you have guys who can take over and give them like Lou Dort. What do you hit like 18 threes in like 2 games? something crazy like that. And like it was like 60 or anything. It's like insane, but like SGA, incredible player. Like this is really his what second or third year, like in his actual prime. So I think that it'll be them. I would love to see. I think an interesting finals would be them and maybe like a dark horse, coming out. Obviously, I think it's going to be them in Cleveland or Boston, but I mean, let's do it. Let's have the two number one seeds. What do you say? OKC, Cleveland.
I love
That's
the
how
way
it's supposed to be, but that never works out that way.
It never works out, yeah.
I
But
love the way OKC is playing in the regular season, and I'm not trying to put OKC. I just need to see it in the playoffs, and you
yeah,
it's going to be those games where Shea is having bad shooting games, and can somebody pick it up? Them second and third options pick it up and really, really help or even carry the team a couple of games because it's going to happen. Teams are going to aim and say, we need to stop Shea. We're going to allow somebody else to beat us. And are they ready for that time? Because in the playoffs, this game going to slow down and you really become a half court team in the playoffs. And let's see what you can do. OKC is great defensively. It's going to be, I want to see can they put the ball in the bucket outside of Shea. And it's going to be very important because the one thing Cleveland got, they got that second option, they got that third option, they got a fourth option, and they got a hell of a bench. They got people who can score. So I actually got less questions about Cleveland than I do OKC because you can see the options for Cleveland. OKC, I think only reason I think this hurting them because I think the team is trying to win Shea MVP. So it's probably hurting the team in certain ways because the team is trying to help them win it. So we're not getting the chance for other players to just step up in the regular season on a consistent basis. You see a game here, a game there, somebody playing. But I think since the team is not doing what they should do, I think it's hurting them, and I think it's going to hurt them in the playoffs. So I think they literally a year away from making a real run to the finals. I do think OKC will be in the finals next year because I do think they trading for a certain player next year.
mm-hmm.
But I think they're a year away, and I could be all the way wrong, but it's just from what I'm seeing, and I just I just think you need a consistent second or third option that's consistent to win in the playoffs. That I know in this game, Shea is your number one option, he your number two, he your number three. Even if that's 2 and 3, switch every sometime game. I just need to see that from OKC. And if that happens, it happens. Hey, I want to see them play because I think they're a great team. But it just from what I'm seeing, and that's it.
I mean, the OKC has a pretty good second option. Jalen Williams is pretty good, so
Yep.
I don't think they are going to struggle with their first two options. It's that third option who's going to step up in the third option. I think that's the thing. But it hasn't. They haven't had any issues this year. They went through it. They was the number one seed last year as well, so they've been through the gauntlet. They lost in the second round. They came back better. Obviously, I think that they get all the pieces they need.
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean,
I think the only team who could beat them is if the Lakers have a crazy series. Other than that, it's going
yeah,
to be hard to beat them in the West.
yeah. Who's gonna do it? I mean, you're right. Lakers will have to shoot the lights out. Like they're,
Yeah.
it's like that's what I like about basketball is generally the better team wins in a 7 game series. It's like football where anything can happen. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna write the Lakers off because they were impressing during like their last, before LeBron, and like that's I'm not in the LeBron glazing business, but like when he went down, you just saw like that team was night and day. Like
Yes.
it's because you can't say enough about like his leadership, like his passing. Obviously he was playing great defense too, but like they'll still score and whatnot. But you saw like a lot of miscommunication too, like when they, when not even just last night, but you know, uh, a couple games before that, like they were. They given it like they were missing rotations too. JJ Redick can only do so much but it's so helpful when you have an on the court general too. And obviously his production is going to be missed too. So I mean,
And
if
plus,
there's
like,
a
plus they are already shorthanded as it is.
yeah, and yeah,
So
Hayes.
that'll
I
help
don't know when
out.
Hayes is coming back, but
Rui's
it's
out too.
You can tell
Rui.
people
Yeah,
they missing his voice.
Fanny
They missing
Fanny
that
Smith
voice on
hasn't
the
played like the
defensive
last
line.
couple games, I think.
yeah. So they're. I mean, if they're fully healthy, I think they can gel, make some noise. It's just gonna be like we always say this. Like, who's the most consistent? Who's gonna be consistent? What are they gonna
Yeah,
do? Like, is Cleveland gonna be shoot 40% from three in the playoffs as a team, which is insanity. But it's like what we have. I mean, my prediction still. I mean, I'm still gonna say uh, OKC Celtics, but it's just. I mean, there's so much happening. It could be anything really. But
the game the other day, OKC Celtics. Did you watch
yes,
that game?
great game. Love that.
That was a great game, man.
Fantastic game.
Yes. Hey, I think the NBA has some great games going on, and
Yeah.
um, if you watching the games, I mean, you see it. I mean, you see this young talent really playing basketball, and hey, I love watching some of these games. You sitting down watching, it's something you don't want to get up from, and really pay attention to some of these games. And I love that OKC Celtics game. It was a great game. And I think the Celtics should have tried to beat them, because one thing you don't want going on close to the playoffs is a team beating you at home
At
and,
home.
and saying, guess what? If we meet in the finals, I believe we can win here, because we just did in March. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
I mean, they exploited some match. Like it was. There were some great matchups. So like SGA on Tatum and things like that was a really good. You had Holmgren playing out of his mind there
yes, yes,
too,
yes,
which was
yes.
crazy. But
And he the
I
third
mean,
option. He the third option. You
yeah.
that if he wasn't injured all year, when like Brandon was saying, they got a second option, and because he was hurt, I think it hurt them a little bit, because I think he would have went down as that consistent third option that Brandon is talking about. I think he would have been that third option that you could see all
Hmm.
season. And because he getting himself in shape and getting healthy, is he trusting his body? Do he trust the fall? Because them hip injuries, the one thing you scared, you don't want to fall, because you can hit. That's the first thing you're gonna hit is the hip. And
Yeah.
are you scared to really play the way you should because you worried about the injury? And hey, I just want to see some nice basketball. And I do you think that week off before the playoff hurts Cleveland and that momentum they having? Because remember, you shooting 40% from three and having that week off before the playoffs start. Does that
I
hurt?
mean,
Maybe the first game.
yeah. I
Maybe the
think it
first
hurts.
game, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it hurts. Like it's something more like football,
Yeah,
just because it's like your body becomes acclimated to like, you know, the grind or whatever
yeah.
of the weekly. But in basketball, I think it can, but you're still gonna shoot up and warm around. It's way easier to get back. I don't think it's gonna hurt them, but I just think like they have like what are they like 7 or 8 or 6 or 7 players in double figures right now, and like they're just like they're playing great defense as well. So it's like I don't know. It's can you sustain it? But I mean, what's I didn't expect this, but obviously there's no one has even mentioned like an MVP discussion for Donovan Mitchell, even though he's on the best team in the league. He's the best player on that team. I mean, is that what it takes? Obviously, but I mean, speaking of the MVP race, I mean,
Not dominated in any number
yeah,
category.
he's
That's what
not
it is.
having a historic year, but I
Yeah.
mean, the word on the street is it's probably going to be SGA. But Brandon, what do you think? I mean, obviously
It's
we
gonna be
talked about this,
SGA.
but
Yeah, it's gonna be him. So
yeah,
even though Jokic is having probably the greatest statistical regular season we ever seen, and they may finish second in the West or third at the least, I think it's still gonna go to SGA because they're not gonna give Jokic another title.
hmm
I mean, another MVP. Just like Lamar Jackson, he had a better season than Josh Allen, but they
he
just
did.
were not going to give it to him, even though Lamar Jackson was first team All Pro.
in the
Like
same boat as both.
they have a narrative out there, and that's usually how it works.
I
Yeah,
Who's
mean,
having a better season is Jokic. That's not. I don't think that's a question. I don't think that's a question.
Joke is third in points per game, third in rebounds, second in assists, second in steals, first in per, and that's not your MVP.
Yeah, the
He's the only
analytics like
player. If that holds up, he's going to be the only player in league history to finish top three in points, rebounds, and assists in one season.
I mean, I'm debating somebody about that, and they were just like, Shea is having a great season, and I'm not trying to belittle his season. He's having a great season. It's just Joker's having a better season. I mean,
yeah, Jokic. I think he's definitely have a better season. His analytics, his value over replacement, like it goes all to Jokic. Jokic should be MVP, but that's just not going to happen. I mean, he can't win it every year apparently.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, Shea is leading in the like defensive blocks, things like that. But I mean, he's not. And it's a great season. Like he's leading from the front on the best team in the Western Conference. But it's just like that's why it's so tough because there's never ever going to be a criteria that people have to abide by. It's not. It's just the a kind of a person like you said, voter fatigue, narrative. Those things control it more than the people's actual. Because yeah, nobody is going to touch this season or even 2022 by Joker when he's blowing away everyone analytically. His production's crazy, especially efficiency wise. That's what sets him apart from any other person who's probably averaged a triple double in history. Like who else is going to shoot almost like close to 60% while shooting over 40% from three at volume, and they're triple double, like they're top three in the league in almost every single category.
Well, this is
Like
the best season he had, and
yeah,
he's not going to be MVP because of
yeah,
he already has three, and
and
it's
they
he's
someone
carrying.
else. So,
His
they trying to make
teammates
up
are
for last.
really good too. Like as far as analytically, like the best player analytically the Joker has is Murray, and he's like number 57 among analytics. Like it's just and like Shea has like what three or four people who are top
Yeah,
15,
top
and
15. Yeah,
so it's like I mean I love Shea, but I mean when you have someone on this amount of it's just to me it's not even close. It's not even a discussion, but you know I don't have a vote, so
I
I
think
mean,
SGA
like
should. I think
his
SGA
team
should have
has a
won it
better
last.
record, so
Yeah,
yeah,
I think SGA should have won it last year. OKC was number one in the West, and they wasn't even predicted to make the playoffs last year. OKC, and for them to not go from predicted not to make the playoffs to being number one in the West, and Shea being the best player on the best team. And I think Shea should have won it last year. I think they're trying to make up for what they did last year. But the problem is, what you're trying to make up for it is that I think what media does, part of their job is to tell the story and tell a history. So your history gonna say is Jokic had this great season, one of the greatest seasons in NBA history, but we had to get him at MVP because we didn't give it to him the year before.
I mean, it
yeah.
happened before. It happened before. It happened with James Harden when he should have won MVP in 2015.
It
Yeah,
happened with
The
Mike,
next
happened
time,
with LeBron.
yeah,
having LeBron
the
at
next
18,
time
having
the
Magic
LeBron
next
at
time
robbed.
18.
James Harden
Yeah,
had a good season, they had to give him the MVP because
yeah.
they messed it up last before.
Magic robbed Jordan of MVP in '89 and '90 when he smoked Magic in everything across the board except for assists, and he was first team all defense. But I mean, it happens. We know it. Like
Hey,
2011, LeBron probably could have
Anyway,
won.
Harder, he just had a 30, 20, and 20 game. And we talking about somebody else being MVP. Ain't nobody ever did a 30, 20, and 20, but we talking about somebody else being
That's
MVP.
Yeah.
because they didn't give it to him last year.
Yeah,
If they would have gave it to Shea
that's
last
what.
year, this season wouldn't be an issue. It
The thing,
wouldn't
Yeah,
be
no, it
a
wouldn't even be
discussion.
an issue.
I just hope that later on, like we look back on, or not even just us because we're doing it now, but people look back and be like, because he like it would be Joker 24/7 on everything, but he's so understated. He doesn't say anything. He's not like this loud, flamboyant dude who gets up there and like pipes up his own game or whatever. He just goes about his business. They interviewed him right about they're like, hey, like they were trying to get a hot take from him about the MVP discussion. This was a couple days ago, and he was like, they're like, oh man, like what do you think about the? He's like, I think I'm playing great, but they give the shade. That's fantastic. He's great too. He's like, I can't control. I just focus on the game, and like that's all he said. He walked away. They're like, oh no, what do you think? Like, and they were trying to say like get him to say something negative, but he's not that guy. And like he's like Tim Duncan kind of in that regard, where they just go to work and they're just individually great. you can give them word. But like that's why I'm glad that we're above. Like I'm not. If somebody got robbed for an MVP, I'm not gonna let that affect him in my all-time rankings. Uh, as far as how I do that, because we all know that we're unbiased enough to look at what's
MVPs are
happening.
different. Yeah, MVPs are different. Like he has three of them.
Yeah, here it is three.
So yeah, so
but he
it's
should be
never
getting a
going to
four.
affect his four is not going to affect how great of a player he is.
Because
He
he
has
should
to
have
get
five,
seven.
possibly.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I I know the 1 year. Well, him and Embiid, I think they like swapped in MVPs. One of the
Yeah,
years they should have gave it to Embiid,
yeah,
but then they gave Embiid Jokic MVP, so they
yeah,
yeah.
swapped them out. So that's just what they do. They play a narrative thing, and it's whatever suits
yeah.
them.
I think it's determined before the season starts. And I was having this conversation with somebody. I said I think it's determined before the season has started because you can't tell me that it's not because I think they was going to give the MVP last year to Embiid, and
No, he
if he
should have
didn't
won it
get
last
hurt,
year. Should we stay healthy?
he,
Yeah.
he yeah, if he didn't get hurt, he was going to win it again, and
Hmm.
they had to go. That's why I think SGA didn't win it because they was like, shoot, we had already determined Embiid was going to win it, and then our second place winner was going to be Joker, and then Shea came from nowhere, so we're not prepared for this guy. We're not prepared for him. It was like
I don't.
we weren't
I don't know
prepared
if they
for this.
determine who's going to win MVP, but I definitely think they determine who's not going to win something at the beginning of the year.
Well, you saw what Stephen A. Smith said, right? Like a couple days ago when they were talking about it, clown take was where they were like, the whole panel was like, yeah, Jokic should win, and here's why, and they were giving all the numbers, the impact. His on off metric is insane. It's like the his he's beating his own PER record from 2022. Like his on off is like 21.3 or something, and Shay's is 15,
Crazy.
and it's like the best ever, not even close. Like they're both having historic seasons, but yeah, like they were breaking it down, and Stephen A. Smith said, "You're right, it's not close. Shay's got my vote, and he's had it for some time." Like, shut up, Smith. No wonder you got punked by LeBron.
So when I say it's determined before the season starts, that's what I mean. It's
Yeah,
determined before the season starts because basically, there's nothing Joker could do to win MVP.
yeah,
Yeah. I think they determined that Joker wasn't winning it at the beginning of the
Yeah,
year, but they said why isn't Tatum in the MVP conversation? I don't think Tatum will ever be in the MVP conversation. It has nothing to do with what he does on the court. I think it just has to do with his personality. I think that's what it is. Like
yeah.
they don't
yeah.
give him any type of respect, and it's just going to continue to happen. Even though he's such a great player,
That's a
he's
good
such a great
question, though.
player. Yeah.
That's a great question from who said that? Whoever said that? Why isn't Tatum get? Because I mean, that's another thing. Like, it's like they're so good, right? You just think about the Celtics, and you're like, oh, it's a great team. You don't think about individual. Tatum's having an MVP worthy season, like in some other leagues or some other years. But you know,
Um,
it's how do you measure his actual? I think he's top five for sure, right?
I mean,
I mean,
Tatum,
he didn't even win Finals MVP when he was clear the Finals MVP.
yeah,
They robbed him.
Yeah, he was
yeah,
clear the Finals MVP. Okay, we understand that you like Jalen Brown better, and in the Eastern Conference Final, he outplayed Jason Tatum. Like, he did. Like
Yeah.
that's not a question. He did. But in the finals, Jason Tatum was the best player on the floor. He led in everything.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, there
I mean,
wasn't really a reason to give it to Jalen Brown. There wasn't a reason to give it to him, other than you just don't want to give it to Jason Tatum.
yeah, it was too predictable, right?
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, did you see the? Because I was explaining to somebody, I said they were talking about the finals last year. They said, well, Jalen Brown was guarding Luca. I said,
Hmm.
did you pay attention to what Boston did defensively?
Yep.
Jalen Brown was guarding Luca, but the end run was for Tatum to be guarding
Hmm.
because Dallas run a 1-5. So basically, the five comes up the pick so they can get the switch. So the switch was Tatum was guarding the five, so it was the end with Tatum to guard Luca. But because they saw Tatum on Luca, Tatum literally disrupted their whole game plan. People don't even pay. Tatum literally disrupted their whole game plan because they couldn't run a 1-5 because guess what? I was usually gonna go from Jalen Brown guarding him to Jason Tatum guarding.
Yeah.
So it was just like, wow, they had to run another type of offense versus Boston because they wasn't prepared for that, and they never switched off to do anything else to do it.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, you'll live with Luka taking contested, 30-foot jumpers. Like
step
you'll
up.
live with that.
Yeah.
Even when he dropped 45 the other day, like he's shooting off balance threes, whatever. Like you do that instead of someone breaking your defense down, getting layups, getting other people involved, getting you in foul trouble. Like I will take that all day. It's different if he's part of the offense, like when LeBron's there or someone else is on fire and he's just spotting up, shooting wide up. But when he's like the main guy, that's what the problem was in Dallas to a degree, right?
Yeah.
Like before
Kyrie.
Kyrie got there, it's just like in Clay. So I mean that's what, but um, sports talk is wrong. It's MVP is not only about stats, 100%. Otherwise, Steve Smith or Steve Nash wouldn't have stiffed it, right? Like
Yeah,
it
but
was just impact.
sports talk, what is it? Because there's no criteria for it, and
Exactly.
we don't force the media to make a criteria for it. And I mean, how do you determine what's MVP? Because I mean, we know who got a great argument. That guy in Cleveland right now has a great argument because we the best team with the best record in the NBA. And I'm not even. You don't even hear his name in some of this MVP talk at all. And if he ain't
I
first
mean,
team All NBA, I'm gonna have an argument.
the NBA MVP is not supposed to be about stats. It's not supposed to. But that's a big part of it because how valuable are you if your stats don't show it?
Yeah. Well,
Like
that's
that.
what also Peter Bagge just mentioned. Like that's part of the trivia answer almost. Giannis, he gets lost in the sauce. He is having the top two seasons in NBA history as far as field goal percentage with a player scoring at least 30 points per game. Giannis is 1 and 2 last year and this year at 60%. He's just, and then it's, I'm not going to give you the answer to the trivia question. You guys need to tell me, but I'll eliminate. It's two of them are Kareem, 71, 72, and they'll back to back, and the two of them are Giannis. Who's that fifth player? You got to tell me, then you win. But yeah, it's Giannis is insane. He's just so consistent, and he's added a lot to his game too. Like he's improved drastically from the mid range,
Yes,
like
fact.
very drastically. Like it's insane. Like he went from like 35 to 46. His best season was 41. Now it's at 40, almost 47. Like he can hit a three if he needs to, but he's giving you buckets at a huge percentage, and he's amazing defensively.
You can tell he's been
Right.
working on it every off season. He's steady work on it. He's working on it his game, and that mid
Mm-hmm.
range game, you can tell later in his career going to be a big part of his game. And he's going to probably go to the post a little bit more, but that mid range game is going to be a big part of his game later on in his career.
Of course, yeah, because he's over 30 right now, right? Like
Yeah.
he's going to be, he needs
He's
it.
like 30, 31 years old right now. So, hey, Giannis is a great player. And, hey, that was my other. I was having a discussion with somebody. I asked them, I said, so why is Giannis not being talked in the MVP talk? Tell me, what is he not doing?
Right?
Team
Because
record. That's on his
he's
team.
already won, couple on like they're going to be
That's
like,
the
oh
team
yeah.
record
But
too.
sports talk,
Plus, you know,
the answer is not Shaq. It is a non-power forward, non-center. And so the only one on that top five list that's a non-power forward, non-center. So think about that.
and plus with Giannis, Shea, and Jokic, they're like top three in everything. So he should be in the MVP conversation, but the team record is the reason that he's not above Jokic. I think what they're like fourth in the or fifth, fourth or fifth in the
Well,
East.
Shea is first in Shea is first in scoring,
Yeah,
74th in rebound, 15th in assists, second in steals, and second in PER.
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, he's second in value over replacement. I think Giannis is third. Like they're like the team stats, the team analytics. They're 1, 2, and 3, with Jokic ahead of both of them, and Shea usually in second. So that's why it's between those three, and that's why Shea is second place to Jokic. But they're going to give it to Shea. I'm pretty sure they are.
Wouldn't give it to Shea.
Uh,
Would, would you
I
be
mean, like
surprised?
Shea's having a great season, so it's not like it's crazy, but Jokic is having an all-time great season. I think
Yeah,
that's a difference.
he's had one of them
Yes.
all-time seasons. He's had
Yeah.
one of them seasons that we shouldn't even be discussing the MVP race.
It's
It's
going to
not
be
a
like
Yeah.
the Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Oscar Roberts season when
yes,
Yeah.
both of them had better season than Bill Russell, but Bill Russell's the MVP.
because
And
Oscar
like,
Robertson
it's
won that.
like what's terrible about it is like we're like when you look at him play, like his play style. It's I don't want to say it's boring, but like he like if you saw like
Who Shea?
Sabonis. No, Joker. Like before,
Yo,
like Arvidas Sabonis, like before he just lost entirely, he was kind of like Jokic, but like obviously didn't have the offensive repertoire. But like he could rebound. He was a fantastic passer. He was good in the perimeter. He was, and especially in his European playing days, Arvidas Sabonis, like he was kind of what Joker is, but Joker's just on another level. Like he'll rebound, he'll direct the offense. Obviously, I don't think he's ever going to be a defensive stopper, but like he'll he's smart as far as like what the other team is trying to do,
Yes,
and like that's why he'll have like 2 steals a game. Like he's smart. He can play the passing lanes. He'll be in the right position to get that rebound, and he's a transcendent passer. Like just, I mean, smart passing, flashy, whatever you want. It reminds me a lot of like obviously who are the best passers right now. Like LeBron was great, Steve
yeah,
Nash is a kid, Magic. All these players change the game with their passing to a degree, but and then he's wildly efficient from all three levels. Like, is he the perfect basketball player? And if he played a little bit better defense, sure, but
yeah. I
he's
I
mean,
up
mean, his
there.
defense don't hurt him. That's the thing. Like
No, it doesn't hurt him.
when we're
Well,
saying that he's having an all-time great season, that's because of what he's doing. Like he's averaging a triple-double,
yeah,
and he's shooting like 57% from the field, 40 plus from the three-point line. Like no one has had a season
ludicrous,
like that before.
ludicrous.
Like nobody in NBA history. Like Shea's having a great season. He's not having an all-time great season, but he's having a great season. But what Jokic is doing, no one has done in NBA history. That's why we're saying he's having an all-time great season because
Yeah.
we never seen it before.
Never. Also, and if you want to, at this point, if you want to drop the link, like I said, this is to the chat here. If you guys have ever seen Jim Rome, obviously my favorite caster of all time as far as, pseudo podcast radio show. But one of the things that was cool about his show is that he had not a lot of bloat of the people who were calling in, but people would call in and give great, concise takes. Not a lot of run on, but then they'd end up give a good take, finish it up with an exclamation mark or period, and then you're done. And then, we can get that, a bunch of people calling in and doing that about what we've talked about, your takes on our debate earlier, and what we talked about, just discussed. And then we'll kick it around, maybe see who had the best take and go from there. But also, like I said, think about the answer to that question. It's who is the only non-center guard. This last time I'll repeat it, I swear. Non-center, power forward to be in the top 5 of field goal percentage in NBA history for a single season while they scored at least 30 a game. A lot to take in there, I get it, but we'll ask you again, okay?
great, great question. Because I
Yeah.
got it wrong, so the chat, so I
I
got it.
had no idea. I saw it, like, I was looking at it, I'm like, wow, like, I randomly came across it. I'm like, that's a great question. But, yeah, if you want to bring them up and they'll see what their takes are. Let's try to limit the takes to, like, 2 minutes. Let's see if anyone's going to call in. Best passers, yeah. I mean, Jason Kidd.
Yeah, J
Oh,
Kidd was a hell of a passer. I mean,
who do you think the top 3 passers ever were? I think Kidd's got to be up there, right?
yeah, yes.
Well, Kid, Stockton, Chris Paul, like
Peter
the top
Bag
three.
Juice. Boom.
Magic.
Pete Bag Juice. Written you down. That is the correct answer. I said it first. Come up with your
Oh,
reward, brother. We'll do it.
oh my god! Oh my god! I
What
didn't
a
think.
got off the hip too. No research. Just gotta be Danley. You son of a bitch.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, I have incidentally. I have Adrian Danley in top 10 scores of all time. In there, I've said this
God,
before. Just for that
God.
reason.
Yes, yes.
50. Do you know what year? Extra credit, Peter, if you get the year. But now you can just look it up. So
Hey, you
But
can look at you can look up that answer. Oh my God.
yeah,
I wouldn't have thought, but hey, I said Steph Curry. But it was actually true shooting.
Yeah.
But I had said Steph
which
Curry, and I
you're
think
right
that was
about. Like, who else is? And like, this is the one thing I had. Like, there was a couple takes last week on the show that I just hated, where they were talking about um is or what were they talking about, like how LeBron wasn't a great scorer or whatever because of his play style and how he got his points. Like, it doesn't matter how you get your points. Like, they're talking
It's-
about like the most skilled players of all time. Like, okay, it doesn't matter. Like, you wouldn't hold that against players like Shaq, right? All you want to see is efficiency and production. Everyone has their own style.
yes. I mean, I think that's held against LeBron. He's not considered one of the greatest scorers, even though he's the greatest scorer. But
Yeah,
that's all.
LeBron is, by any measurement, LeBron's a top 10 scorer of all time. Like, he has like the fourth highest points per game average. I
27 again.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, he
Mhm.
hasn't scored less than 22 since his rookie season or something. Like, he's consistency has a name, and it's LeBron James. Okay,
Yeah.
well,
like,
he's
as
averaging
far as
25 points a game at 40. So
I
Is
mean,
he
20,
is he
25
efficiency
officially
and
beat
8.
the man.
25? Because I know he was at 24.9 when I last checked.
No,
So
he's at 25. He was at
Is it 200? Well, he's
25.1.
been up in it
yes,
during the run. You know,
he has been there. Like I said. I mean, you talk about who are some of the most skilled scorers in NBA history, and LeBron is looked at as not one of the top scorers, even though
Mhm.
even the guys that the two guys ahead of him are only decimal points ahead of him in scoring. So it's not like
Yeah.
they average even a point more because it's KD and somebody else. But I think Luca
Jerry West.
just entered that conversation too. So um,
Yeah, I mean, Luca's there, but like, it's, whatever the sample size. But
yeah,
for my money, obviously, I think the best scorer I thought was, I've always said, was KD. But as far as just consistency and like contributing to the all around game, like, you're not going to beat LeBron James. Like, like, how many players in the history have been the best facilitator and scorer on their team for this long? Like,
I mean,
nobody.
he led his team in scoring 20 times and assists 20 times, and no one did that before, period. So
Yeah, that's
he's
why players
literally
like Magic
one
and
of one.
Larry, those guys have done like the same thing, but you know they succumb to the ravages of time in basketball, I mean, whatever. But it's consistently, it's hard to take that away from LeBron at all. So
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, he has records that's probably not going to be broken, and I think we're going to have such great scores in the league, and he's taught the league how to last long in this league, and I think the problem going to be for a lot of players is discipline. Are you disciplined enough to do what LeBron James has done for right now? It's 22nd seasons. Are you disciplined enough to do that? And are you luck? This is a little luck involved in some of this as well. But are you
Mhm.
disciplined enough to really put in the work to to go 20 years and really, and you got to start off the gate with scoring because you got to think Kobe is one of the greatest scorers ever too, and what he's fourth all time in scoring.
Yeah,
So and because he started off the gate slow, so um, that's his issue because if he started off a 20-point game score too, where would he have ended up? And so
yeah. And I mean, like, what's crazy about LeBron too is like he's added more to his bag as time goes on, like way long. Like, he realized he wasn't going to be like this hyper athletic freak his entire career, but he's added the three ball, like his last few years especially. Like,
yeah,
he has a much improved mid range game. That's on display every single night.
he's in
And
the post
yeah,
more. So yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
what LeBron James has done, he's just a better shooter,
yeah.
and he
hmm
takes the right shots.
That's
So
that's a great
you know
take.
how
Well said.
I was looking at his numbers, like under 16 and over 16 feet. The reason that he's such a good player over 16 feet now is because of his three ball. So when he's shooting over 16 feet, majority of the time is a 3-pointer. So
Yeah.
his
Well,
numbers
why
gonna
not?
keep improving, and he's shooting it well. So I did dive deep into that shooting thing, and Jordan only has a few seasons where he's shooting, but from 97 to 98, LeBron James averages more point per shot attempts than Michael Jordan did, because Michael Jordan was usually shooting twos and he was efficient, and LeBron is shooting threes and he's efficient.
Yep.
So the knock on LeBron shooting is not really a thing anymore
Yeah.
because he's putting up those points.
I mean, to me, it never really was like a detriment to him, but like there were times where like you could see teams that would maybe that was really the only way to stop him because he wasn't going to hurt you from three, or at least not to the degree he is now. But now it's like you can't really slack off of him because he's one of the better shooters in the league, especially the But yeah, Johnny's right. Peter won. So just in case you guys missed it, the question was who was the only non power forward non center guard to average at least 30 points per game and be in the top five of field goal percentage while doing so in one season. Answer was Adrian Dantley, 1983, while he was on the Utah Jazz, and 58% from the field. And look at his play style. It wasn't layups. It's like that was it was shooting threes and mid range, just crazy, phenomenal player. But Mr. Haskell got it right. Congrats, dude. What do you got for us?
Yeah. It was. Hey, how y'all doing, gentlemen?
It's good.
Good man.
Yeah, he did it on post ups, which was crazy to me. I don't know how I found out about Danley as a player because I didn't start watching NBA basketball till about 93, I'd say. Yeah, so I can't remember how I found out about him, but I remember finding out about him some kind of way, and then looking up his stats and then seeing his height, and I'm like, how the hell? Like how? You know what I'm saying? And then I go and watch his highlights, and I still don't know how he did it because it's pretty much all post ups. And then the shots that he's shooting, it looks like they're supposed to get blocked. What is going on out here, bro? But yeah, incredible player, man. Incredible player. But I want to ask Travis something. What do you make of the people who critique Jokic's defensive impact, right? So they got a bottom 10 defense right now. They're 23rd in the league. With him being a center. Like
Mm-hmm.
of a how much would you factor that in insofar as like how you assess him as an MVP candidate?
To me, I mean, like if you look at like some of the raw numbers, like yeah, their team is dog water defensively, but there's he's led in like defensive win shares like the last 4 seasons or something crazy like that. But it's like I know those sometimes those analytics can be fooled. Jokic, I mean, he's smart enough to kind of make up for that, but there are things I'd like to see him do better. I like to see him challenge shots more, especially when he's right next to the player. When he's
Hmm.
coming out, like when he's cutting off like driving lanes or picking whatever he's doing, he's really bad at trying to. I think because he's already turned it around, trying to get a rebound or anticipating that. But as far as like the MVP race or as a player, besides that, I think that like his brilliance on the other end and his okay, being okay as far, especially as a rebounder, defensive rebounder, that makes it up for me. And he's so dominant in every aspect of the game. To me, it doesn't really matter as far as like where I would rank him and like give him an MVP, just because without him, the team would be historically bad. Every number says it. His team is like wildly inefficient without him. They couldn't guard a cone. Nobody could. So I mean, they were. I think like in 2022, their offensive rating was like second with him, and without him, it was something like it was like 24th or something, and that was one of the biggest switches we've ever seen. But to me, it doesn't really matter. Like I'd like to see him improve on some defensive mechanics. But to me, it wouldn't really affect where I place him all time or right now in the season.
But even defensively, he's in the correct position at
Yeah.
times. He plays great team defense. And when people talk about him defensively, what I think they're saying is that he's not a great shot blocker.
Yeah.
Because when I asked the question, how does he hurt the team defensively? Well, he's not a great shot blocker. and that's all they get to say. You don't say that their perimeter defense is terrible. You don't People don't say that. You just say he's not a great shot blocker, but
Mhm.
he doesn't hurt his team defensively because I believe he's always in the right position defensively, and he tries his best to help the team defense as he can. So defensively, I don't think he is bad that people want to speak of, all because he's not a great shot blocker.
I mean, he's not good in space either.
What do you mean in space?
Meaning, if Jokic is his center, you basically have no other option than playing a very deep drop. Like you have to, because his lateral movement just isn't there, and it's not for lack of effort. It's just one of his deficiencies.
You
You
think
know, so
you think when he playing a drop, you think he gets destroyed in a drop?
depends on who he's playing. You know, if you're playing a guy that doesn't have a good pull up shot or a great pull up jumper, then there's not a lot of players who can really exploit a player being in a deep drop like that. But if it's somebody like a Steph or even a Shea in the mid range, you're in a lot of trouble. And that's why the people who think Denver has a chance against OKC in the playoffs, I just don't see it.
So when you said he was bad in space, you said exactly what I was going to say, because how you would exploit him in a drop, a lot of players can't exploit him like that.
Right, that's true.
And what Shea Gift is is in the mid range, and that's what Jokic is at. He's standing right there. So if he's going to beat Jokic, it's going to be more at the rim than in the mid range. So it's not many players who can. That's why I said I don't think he is bad defensively as people want to say, because I think you're right in a way you say he's not great in the open court, but teams don't exploit it because they don't have those type of players. And I just don't think he's bad defensively as people want to speak of.
Probably the Lakers. You could put the Lakers in there too.
Yeah.
So, Blue Vote want to ask who was everyone's top 5 individual season of all time.
Ooh, great question. You want to tackle that there?
Well, I already said who was. I put LeBron 2013 and 12, then Jordan, then Hakeem, then Duncan.
John?
Ooh. LeBron 12, Jordan 88. What year was that for Duncan? Was that 04?
03. That was 03.
03 was Duncan's best year.
Kobe's it's not his
06.
MVP yet. 06, yeah. And I'm gonna give a season to somebody people wouldn't think of. I'm gonna say Jokic this year.
Yeah, facts. If I had to do it I'm gonna reserve Jokic's titles for later, but I'm gonna play it 88 Mike, 94 D Rob, 13 Braun, 94 Hakeem, and 2000 Shaq.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Who you got?
Could do
I
16
probably
Curry
gotta
too.
go. Yeah, I'm a go 09 Wade, 16 Curry, 94 Hakeem, 92 Jordan, and I got one more. Probably Shaq 2000.
Okay.
How do you not have that? It's such a crazy season.
Yeah.
yeah, Shaq.
Oh, I didn't say LeBron, huh? Let me
Good.
see who No, I want to think. I'm always hating on LeBron. So who I said? I said Shaq, Curry. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I can't take my dog Wade out of there. Sorry, LeBron.
Peter, so since you won, oh yeah, so Blue Ball, that's our take. Give us yours, but Peter, since you won, since you saw our debate, right? You were here for that, like the first half of the show.
No. Remind me.
Okay, so basically, what our show is going to consist of every week is John, Brandon, and I are going to debate around like this one. It was just like we debated who was in our opinion, one of the best individual seasons of all time, and we each picked a player and gave like a 5, 6, whatever minute response on that, and then it's up to it's going to be up to the chat every week to vote who won. So since you won the trivia question, though, you get to pick, and then you think about it. Email us, get in the
Right.
Go James Discord. You get to pick what we're going to debate about, and just make sure it's a topic that there's at least 3 answers to, possibly. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
So get
You
that
say
to us by like
you said
Wednesday.
put it in Discord. You said.
Discord or however you want to contact either of us. We're all on Facebook, and so yeah, however you want to do that.
All right. Cool.
Honor is yours, sir.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
I
man,
appreciate
absolutely.
that answer, man, because I wouldn't even thought of that.
I didn't think anyone was gonna get it. You gotta be
Yeah,
gambling.
people. I always hear people compare him to Carmelo, but then when I look at his stats, I'm like, hell no, you know.
Melo didn't have
But I
anything
get
on.
it. He's always looked at a guy who's pretty much all offense, doesn't play defense, and I guess it doesn't translate into winning. I guess that's where the comparison comes in. So I guess I get it, but I mean,
Yeah.
to me, 30 ppg, 58% shooting, and you're like 6'4", 6'5". That's just mind blowing. It's incredible.
Crazy, and his whole career was like that, almost like his prime was. It's insane. It's like
Yeah.
this man was. Like I've always said, he's a top 10 scorer in my opinion, just because of those reasons. But crazy.
Facts. Man, the
Um,
NBA has had a great
I
game.
guess probably most didn't hear our little debate at the beginning about who had the greatest season, anyways. But if you guys want to touch on it next show, we can, or try to do our debate later in the show, just so everyone can see it at the beginning. Instead of doing it at the beginning, we could do it that way.
Yeah, that's a good idea, man. We can just swap it around so we could talk the topics and then do the debate.
Yeah.
So it's fresh and get all of our people on here first.
Yeah.
All right, I guess
Yeah,
we'll go
definitely.
ahead and end the show, anyways. You guys, John, got anything last words?
Hey, y'all, I just want y'all to continue to watch this NBA season. We're gonna continue on to the playoffs, and I hope we have a final couple of last weeks of the season and a great playoff, and that's what I'm down for. And that's it. I just want to watch some great basketball.
All right. I don't really have any last words. What about you, Peter?
Yeah, not much to say. Pretty much echo King John's sentiments. The season is kind of towards the end here. It's gotten kind of exciting.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. So yeah, I'm excited for the playoffs. I like. I see a lot of different teams kind of rounding into form at the right time. Unfortunately for the Lakers, LeBron got injured at the most inopportune time with those 6 games and 8 nights against the competition they got to face. But I like what I see from Minnesota. They seem to be, kind of rounding into form. So yeah, it should be exciting, man. Especially that Western Conference. I can't wait for April.
Facts.
All right, Travis, you could go ahead and end us.
Yeah, guys. So thank you for joining us on our first episode here of The Radar, and with Brandon, John, and I. And again, we're gonna continue to do this on Saturdays here, God willing. And like I said, we're trying to. The whole thing is we want to get you guys involved. So show up, participate with us, be like Peter, and nail those questions, knock it out of the park. And so, again, we'll see you next time. And like it's gonna be the same time, 7 p.m. Eastern. And again, obviously, we'll be back for GJK tomorrow as well. So we'll see everyone then.
All right, we out of here.